Welcome back. In today's episode, we finish up the interview with Steve Wallace, three-time Super Bowl champion with the San Francisco 49ers. Adversity. How can we use adversity to our advantage and take our game to the next level?
Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Thor Conklin here. We give you the tricks, the tips, the tools, the strategy, the technology, and the psychology peak performers use in order to get more done and execute at the highest level. If you know what to do but struggle with getting it all done, or simply want to raise your game to the next level, this podcast is for you. Sit back and enjoy. Who do you admire the most?
Well, I thank God just for the ability He's given me, and just that I can believe that there's a higher, greater being that gives me the confidence that regardless of what happened, that the sun is going to come up tomorrow. It's going to be a great day. And I like a lot of these great coaches. I tell you who I like, and I didn't like him 4 years ago, LeBron James. I didn't like him when he made that move because I thought it was a sense of arrogance. And I didn't. I was like, man, I can't believe he just left that team like that. And my only thoughts were, as an athlete, because LeBron James had so much pressure to deal with because he's being compared to who? One guy.
MJ.
Michael Jordan. So if LeBron James stays in Cleveland and doesn't win a championship, then we'll never talk about LeBron James as a great player, right?
Right.
Okay, Kevin Durant this year. He goes to the Golden State Warriors. Everybody's in an uproar like, oh, my God, I can't believe Kevin Durant has left his team. And you ever heard of Deion Sanders?
Of course.
Right. What did he do? He left the Atlanta Falcons to go to who? San Francisco 49ers. And then after that, he went to the Dallas Cowboys, right?
Yep.
Okay. You ever heard of the New York Yankees? Are they scared about gaining talent, greater talent?
No.
Or the New England Patriots? Guys that want to win championships will leave a team and to go to the New England Patriots and join Tom Brady to what? Win a championship because they want to be recognized for greatness. Peyton Manning. So many folks have marked him down as the seventh, or I'll say the fifth, behind Dan Marino, behind John Elway, and all these other guys. With him winning this last championship, we're going to talk about him as the third or fourth greatest. And one of your mark is that you winning championships. I mean, nobody ever talks about Dan Marino as a great quarterback. This guy, numbers were on a whole nother planet. You know, his numbers were incredible. And but he didn't win the championship. Charles Barkley, he never comes up in the conversation. Was the MVP, had great years, was one of the best power forwards ever in the history of the game. And now back to LeBron James. So when he made that decision, I was just like, man, I can't believe it. But I understand what he was going through because he's constantly being compared to Michael Jordan. And then I think I started to like and appreciate him more, like when he went to the Olympics, and then it just started to hit me. This man is just an American that's fighting for our country to finally win and win the champion, win the gold, and then me see a guy of his stature, crying that he won the gold for America, and I was like, okay. And then going back to Cleveland, in which I heard Charles Barkley said it first. He said like, opposed to LeBron going out to L.A. to help the Lakers win, and he's like, he don't want to help Kobe win another one, right? If Kobe win another one, he's going to be like Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
That's not helping him much.
Yeah.
And so he decided to go back to Cleveland. I was like, because one of the stories might have been Christmas Day because they were playing on Christmas, and LeBron said that he was playing for the Miami Heat, and some young kid came out on the court, and he got close to him. He was like, what the heck is this kid doing? And then the security came right up on the kid, and he was like, and LeBron asked the security to step away for a second, and he said, just this little kid walked up and said, LeBron, I love you, man. Come back to Cleveland and help us win our championship. And this was like Christmas Day.
Yeah.
I'm driving down the road, and to think that a kid just stepped past everyone
Yeah.
And he said this was the one thing that stood out to him most, that this kid was brave enough, come down out of the stands, get kicked out of the game. They took him and his family right on out of there. And he said, I love you. Come back to Cleveland and help us win a champ. Dude, I had tears in my eyes on Christmas Day when I heard that story. I thought, dang, that would be a nice story for him to go back to Cleveland. And then when he went back and then being down 3-1 is that, and this guy, like I said, he's taking a lot of flack.
Did the kid get season tickets?
Well, I tell you what, it worked out. And then for a guy like Michael Jordan, he's a guy who shot the ball a ton, right? He was a leader by shooting and creating, right? LeBron James, people are mad at him because he doesn't shoot the ball enough. I mean, he passed the ball. He's almost like Magic Johnson or John Stockton where he passes the ball, and people are like, well, take over the game, man. And his game is just in helping everybody else and really being unselfish. Yeah. And then that's why I appreciate him, is just that, and I know a lot of folks hate him because, everybody can't be 6'8". And then have that type of ability.
He's an amazing player.
Yeah. So, but that's why just that he was down and out, and then just to fight back, because when you fight back, Tom Brady, when everybody giving up, when he won his last championship, third game in the year, he got stomped by the Kansas City Chiefs, and everybody says it's over. Get rid of this guy. Man, that's Tom Brady. That's Tom Brady. When I talk about quarterbacks, and everybody asks me, and I'm going to be biased somewhat like toward Joe Montana. Joe's going to be 1. You're going to love this. Tom Brady is 1A. We're not even going to 2. Tom Brady is 1A. And that's how it should be looked at. And so I love Tom Brady, and I don't root for him because I don't want him to break Joe's record. But I have so much respect for him as a competitor, as a player, because he's fiery and he wants to win.
Yeah. It's great being around elite athletes. I don't even know if you know this. We know each other quite well. My ex-father-in-law was a member of the 56 and 60 Olympic team.
Wow.
And so I had the opportunity to go to the Hall of Fame induction that the 60 team and the Dream Team was part of. Right. And for the first couple days, it's just family and players. And to be around the Dream Team and the quality of those players, what great individuals. Yeah. I mean, just gracious and humble and just amazing.
Well, it's going to be easy.
And the funny thing was, you think Barkley's funny.
Right.
You know who's funnier than Barkley? Like 5 times? Is Larry Bird.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's one of the next names that that I was going to bring up is that, like you said, when you got Patrick Ewing, you got Michael Jordan, you got all these guys, and when you got guys like Jordan and Bird, I mean, who's going to stick their ego out over that? You know what I mean? And at that point, I think Bird was probably one of the greatest players. I mean, he probably just came off an MVP. And so who else is going to stick out their chest over that when these guys are just,
Well, you should get all these guys in one room and see what happens.
Yeah, you're probably right about that. You're right about that.
I'll tell a story off the record here. We're having breakfast one morning for the families and the players, and you're a player.
Yeah.
When it was Barkley, he was I'm sorry, it wasn't Barkley, it was Magic Johnson.
Yes.
Magic Johnson was there, and he was just part of the group. So we're going through the buffet line, and I overhear this conversation. I just closed on $1 billion deal. It was Magic Johnson. Yes. I said, now there's a player that made something after his playing career.
Absolutely.
That man he's built an incredible organization.
Portfolio, and then to be a part owner of the Dodgers, how do you do that?
How do you raise $1 billion?
Absolutely. They bought the Dodgers for $2 billion, and so that says it all. And it's just neat to see guys that I played with, guys that played before me, have a chance to have some input on this ownership deal. And folks ask like why is John Elway doing so well? Well, John Elway played the game at the highest level, and he was a quarterback. This guy can see things that other folks don't even come close to seeing, and he can use all that knowledge in the makeup of his team, know that this is the right position. I got 2 outside guys that they're coming. And Peyton Manning does not get enough credit for the Super Bowl. What did he do? he called the run plays, because if he wasn't 100%, then yeah, he had to humble himself somewhat to call run plays, because he knew his defense was playing so well. You're up 7 points, or you're up against a team, and then your defense is playing so well. They've totally dominated Cam Newton's team. And then Cam Newton took a lot of flack for it, but there's a guy. You said the blindside tackle, right?
Yep.
Twice in that game. If that would have been me and I got the ball slapped out of the quarterback hand 2 times, I would have been looking for a job come Monday morning. And so, and it was just, maybe so many folks probably dislike Cam for his antics. And if I was going to say one thing to Cam, I mean, think about this. He's like a big kid. And the neat thing is that I'm an Auburn guy, and I went there to speak on leadership. Auburn was like 4-0. And then they just were barely winning games. And so I had a chance to go there and speak on leadership. And then it was a young guy there. He was a quarterback. His name was Cameron Newton. And that's why I call him Cameron. I didn't know anything about no Cam Newton. And so I was like, well, I want to look first at the quarterback. And I could feel him kind of slumping down in his seat. And I was like, well, and then those things that I talked about earlier, well, what the hell are you waiting for? If you talk about you want to be a leader, what the hell are you waiting for, Cameron Newton? And I didn't call him Cam. And then so Chizik was our coach then. He's like, yeah, you got to make sure you say something directly to him, because he can make a difference in this team. And then after that, I mean, games started happening. He played well against LSU, and then it just blew up for him. And so whenever I see him, he's just like very respectful. He's just like, this guy, he won some Super Bowl rings. He won some Super Bowls, so he has a lot of knowledge. So it's like, Mr. Wallace. I was like, dude, you call me Mr. again. It's Steve Wallace, that means like I'm old and over the hill, over the hump. And the one thing I would say to him, and I probably need to get on my Facebook where a lot of folks see it from Auburn, all of that, is cut out the antics with taking photos on the sideline. I mean, because when you take the photos, it kind of embarrasses the players, and then it makes a team like the Atlanta Falcons or Tampa Bay that you're supposed to beat play above, themselves, and then they go out there and knock you down, and you lose a game here the same way. You get the ball knocked out of your hand. And the one thing I would say to him, don't let sleeping dogs lie. Don't wake them up, and then with you taking pictures on that sideline, then that's the one big thing, because everything else is like a playful kid. And there's no, when he does his Superman thing, is discount double check with Aaron Rodgers, same thing. And so just continue to have fun, but keep it all in perspective. And I wish God would have given me that idea to go give those balls to the kids. Man, I love that, just to see the excitement on those kids. And I saw one little girl crying because she got a ball. And I told Cam at Auburn this year, I said, Cam, if I wear a number 1 jersey and go down low, will you give me a ball? He said, you got to call me out. I'll get you one.
Well, it's funny. I heard a great story about Jerry Rice, and it was someone that played ball with him at some point in San Francisco, actually. And they said during practice, during spring training, what they said was this person was always used to getting on the field first. And he shows up like 2 hours earlier than the practice starts. And who's out there? Jerry Rice. They start the drills, and they're throwing the ball, and generally the wide receiver's going out there catching the ball and then just kind of jogging back and throwing it back to somebody. Every time Rice got the ball, he would sprint to the end zone.
All the way down. And
then run back a full sprint and then hand it back to the quarterback. And he goes, what are you doing?
Absolutely.
And he said, when a ball touches my hands, these hands and this ball end up in the end zone, period. Every single practice, he did the same thing.
Yeah, he did that and started it. And then he's one of the guys, if you're going to ask a question like who's one of the greatest players, some people may say Joe Montana, some people may say Jim Brown. I never saw Jim Brown play. Or some people may say Tom Brady. And I say easily Jerry Rice, because if you compare positions, he's on another planet. I mean, they have a Hall of Fame, but he would be the Hall of Fame of the Hall of Fame if he was a player, because, you got Tom Brady won. I mean, Joe Montana won. Tom Brady won right there together. Jerry Rice is Jerry Rice. And then you drop down about 5 levels. Yeah. And then you probably talk about Randy Moss and some of the other greats.
But when you train like that every single day, you ingrain that into your system. Just
Yes.
like you said, you anticipated what they were going to do because you saw it over and over and over again.
This guy was one of the greatest workers and taught me a lot. Because two guys that I played with that I saw a difference of what they did, and Jerry being one, and Deion Sanders for the short period of time he came to San Francisco. Deion Sanders would carry this huge, big recorder. It was when they kind of first came out with recorders, but they were huge. They were big. And
a recorder?
Yes, he had a video recorder.
Oh, okay.
And it was as big as 12 by 12.
Yeah.
And 12 all the dimensions. And he would carry that around. It was heavy. And he would look at the plays over and over and over again because he wanted to study tendencies. I was like, that dude is really something.
Yeah.
And then he was on the back of the plane. I just kind of kept watching him because he was studying the tendencies.
Yeah.
Like, see Wallace, when that guy got his hand down, that means he's going to run inside route.
And so many people want the success, but they're not willing to do the work.
Yep.
And they don't see what it actually takes from the top athletes, from the top business people, of what they do behind the scenes every single day.
It's a grind.
In the trenches. The grind.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like you said. And I guarantee some of these great folks with WebMD, God, my man, I coach his son over at Chastain Park, but they work their ass off. They get after it. And then Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders, we do practice. And if you can think how this is relative, if we went out and practiced, everybody did the same thing, then these guys, you would probably play better based on your talent level, right? Okay, but after every practice, Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders run right in and get on the treadmill. So you're like, dang. And you just kind of peep. You don't say much. You kind of look over there and you go, oh, my God, they're just on that treadmill. And then it wasn't until I had to make a weigh-in, Bill Walsh getting on me, and guys would laugh. They would laugh. So one morning I had to make a weigh-in. I went out. We had steak the night before. We had Ruth Chris. They had cigars. They were just living it up. And, I had to get that off me a little bit. So I had to kind of do my old tricks of the trade and get that off. So I came up early that morning. I went out running, ran about 3 miles, and came back in. Guys were looking at me laughing, you got to get that weight. You got to make that scale. Because Bill Walsh said it's easy, Steve Wallace. Either I'm going to spend your $3,000 to $5,000 or you're going to spend mine. And I feel like this, it would be better for me to spend his, right?
Yeah, of course.
Right. And because you can buy a lot of things with $3,000 to $5,000.
Yes, sir.
And so when I went out there and ran, the one thing I noticed, I was like, my God. I'm not praying to God. God, please help me against this guy right before halftime when we run a 2-minute offense where we got to score, get it in the end zone. And I noticed, I didn't take my mouthpiece out and throw it on the ground or didn't put it in my sock because I was so tired and breathing so hard. And then after that, this was in my 3rd year, I realized that I can play every single play to the best of my ability. And then that's what made me a better pro is that every time out there, like you said, a grind. Federer today was just didn't have a chance. You're down 2 sets, getting ready to go home.
And he pulled it out.
And he just kept grinding. And then in the same effect, that's what I understood. And guys would laugh at me, and I did it for the rest of my career. Well, you got to make weight. And it wasn't about making weight because I was making weight then. And it was just that they laughed, but I laughed, and I knew that every single play I went against Lawrence Taylor, every single play I went against Chris Dolman, every single play I went against Richard Dent would be my absolute best play.
Right. Because of what you did in training.
Absolutely. And in one of the can you imagine this before a Super Bowl game? This is one of my greatest stories is that if the night before this game you're watching ESPN, everybody watches ESPN, gives you something to do. And so the night before I'm watching it, and then Phil Simms, a great New York Giant quarterback, came on the NFL Edge. He did that before he went in color analyst. He came on and said, I'm going to make a prediction here, guys, and you guys won't believe this, but I'm going to predict the San Diego Chargers will beat the San Francisco 49ers. And the reason they will beat them is because they're 6-time All-Pro for San Diego. Leslie O'Neal will dominate that left tackle, Steve Wallace. Leslie O'Neal had him early in the year. He had a sack where he hit Montana, and he almost got there a couple other times. So I'm going to make a prediction, guys. No, I'm sorry. where he hit Steve Young. Steve Young was our quarterback at this time. And then he said, so the 18-point San Francisco 49ers will go down tomorrow, and Leslie O'Neal will be the catalyst and lead the San Diego Chargers. And if you can imagine, my phone started ringing. All my teammates were like, dude, did you see Phil Simms? Did you see what he said? Because everybody's looking at ESPN, nothing else to do. The night before the Super Bowl, my parents started calling, oh, my God, did you see what Phil Simms said about you? And I got nervous and then started to doubt myself, but I knew I had ran like maybe 5 extra miles that week. Like every day after practice, another mile and a half, 2 miles, running, training. And so I go in the bathroom. I said, you know what, Steve Wallace? Phil Simms doesn't know your mind. He doesn't know your heart. He doesn't know your mental fortitude to go out here and fight your ass off on every single play. And so the next day when I woke up in the morning, I had a sense of resolve, knowing that, I'm going to do well against this guy. I said, for me to do something, I need to make it special. So every single play, I was right after that guy. I was just toe-to-toe. And then at that point, through fourth quarter came up, and I looked up. I said, damn, this guy hadn't made one tackle all day. 6-time Pro Bowler, soon-to-be Hall of Famer, has not made one tackle all day. So I started jumping up and down like I was doing with a jump rope, like letting him know I'm fresh, baby. I'm ready to go. And I saw him drop his head. And I knew at that moment.
He's done.
Yeah, I knew at that moment. I was like, and then in that Miami 78 degrees heat in February, it hit him. And so, and then after the game, I go back, you got to turn on ESPN, Thor. You got to turn it on. You got to see what these guys had to say.
What does Phil have to say?
Absolutely. So Tom Jackson was like, my MVP is Steve Young, 6 touchdown passes. What a great day. One of the other guys said, my MVP, like Phil Simms go, my MVP is Jerry Rice, which rightfully so, with a dislocated shoulder, 3 touchdown passes.
Ooh.
Chris Berman, the boomer, said, my MVP is the guy you guys called out before the game. My MVP is that left tackle, Steve Wallace.
Nice.
Shut him down. 0 tackles, guys. Let's look at this. 0 tackles all day long.
What do you have to say about that, Phil?
Absolutely. Well, hey, it was nothing to say. It just shut him up.
What's one thing you wish you had started earlier?
Perhaps lifting weights and understanding.
When did you start?
I started in college. High school, you try to. You see a lot of guys getting fine, getting sexy, going to the pool. And then you realize you're just a lineman. You're not cut out to be that.
Well, wait a second. What was your nickname?
Big Sexy.
Big Sexy.
But it started out as sarcasm. And so by the time I got to college, we started lifting. And then the one thing, if I had to give 2 more lifts when I was tired and weak, just to be that much stronger. And I don't know if guys took steroids or whatever, but just to be that much stronger, I have no doubt that I would be in the Hall of Fame. And I probably would have been nicer too, because you didn't have to play the game like I played it. My whole thinking was I'll fight a guy just to redirect his mind. And it worked. And it worked for a long time. And it worked. And then I became a better tackle, like in the book The Blind Side said, when I understood what my qualities were, what my ability was. And then to perfect my level of expertise, if I would have been a hair stronger, then I would have been just more dominant. Because, I'm a light tackle in a sense. I don't have the big old booties. Some of these guys got these big grandmama booties and, and they thick and heavy all the way. I was quick and agile, and I can beat guys to the punch. I can beat them to the punch, like Muhammad Ali. But at the same time, I just wish I would have perfected my craft just that much better, because when I look back, being just a few votes here or there away from being a Hall of Famer. And then when you see these guys go up there, you go, God, that could have been me. But, I have no regrets with my career, because I was a winner for a lifetime, 21 years of sports, athletics. All I know is winning.
Well, and you turned around that position for everyone to follow as well. You were really a pioneer at raising the level of the importance of that position.
Well, like I said, I'm not a Hall of Famer just because, because one thing is when you're an offensive tackle, you don't have a stat. your stat is like, well, this guy,
yeah.
Well, you gonna like, well, he knocked the guy on his butt that many times. We're not sacking quarterbacks. We don't have a stat. We're not making tackles.
Right.
Well, your only stat is like you got 4 holding calls.
Right. If you do great, like nobody says anything.
Right.
It's either you did nothing or you did like
that's it.
You messed up.
Our stats are mess up. Like you had 3 holding calls for the year. You had 4 outside penalties for the year. Those are your stats. And so really the voting, if you get in the Pro Bowl one time, then usually it kind of snowballs and then everybody just say, well, this guy's been there, and it kind of snowballs. But the 49ers said to me that you're important. And so therefore we're going to make you the highest paid lineman. And I made more than a lot of quarterbacks at that point. They paid Joe Montana. Then they paid Steve Wallace, and that blew me away. Like, oh my God! Like, okay, I'll take it. I'll put it in the bank. But to be the highest paid guy, was the first lineman to make a 8-digit salary for the contract, and it was just exciting. People were blown away. I have young guys that are my friend that played the offensive line. Well, thank you.
You paved the way.
Absolutely.
What was the pinnacle of your career? If you look back and go, this was. I just felt like this was the top of my game, my top of my career.
I think it comes back to the winning, because my stamp of approval is my wins, and
so it's not one particular game or event.
Well, it was that one when Phil Simms called me out, and I was so nervous.
Okay,
I didn't know what to think.
So that wasn't a Super Bowl game. That was a
Super Bowl game.
It was a Super Bowl game.
Yeah,
okay.
And so the night before the Super Bowl, when I saw that, and that's one of the Super Bowl.
Was that the first, second, or third?
That was the
win?
third one. That was number 3. And then when I won that game, afterwards, and everybody got to see me, and then even they had one of the shots that everybody saw. It was like myself going against Junior Seau one-on-one in the hole, and I knocked him back pretty good. And Dan Deerdorf, one of the analysts, said, "Oh my God, look at what Wallace does to Junior Seau. No wonder we haven't heard anything from their defense all day." And Leslie O'Neal hadn't made a tackle. Oh my God, look at! And then so they show the replay, and I came back home to Atlanta. And I would still stand midway, because I'm kind of the guy that I don't walk to the front of the line. Back then, if you walk into a party at a club, or you try to get the okay to come in early, and then guys like, when that play happened, I came back to Atlanta. Folks heard you were in line. They were like, "Hey, come on up." And so it was awesome.
Was it your best game, or was it just?
It was absolutely my best game.
Oh, so you played. That was a pinnacle of how you played as well.
And the one that Chris Dolman called me out and said, "This guy fights to cover up for his lack of ability to be a left tackle."
So what's interesting here, what I love is the best events, the best games, the best way he showed up was under adversity.
Absolutely.
And what happens, I think, in so many people's lives is they view adversity as this bad thing. Mm-hmm. And it actually can be your friend. It can be your catalyst. It can be your adrenaline, your push. Embrace that adversity.
That happened 2 more times. Same thing happened. 0 tackles. We're getting ready for a big, huge Monday night game. Guy said, this guy should beat Wallace a couple times. 0 tackles all day, because I always felt like one thing, they can't out-concentrate me, and I just have the focus that will just outstay, and I'll play every single play to the best of my ability. Line up, do it again, play it.
All peak performers, same way.
And constantly tell myself that in the end, Wallace, it's going to be worth it. If you can concentrate that deeply. And then it's almost like Michael Jordan says, is that once you find out what it takes to reach that peak for performance, write it down and try to do it over and over again.
Yeah.
I'm going to run more. I'm just going to be really focused. And so that a lot of times this guy makes a move, and my whole mind and body can see it and feel it before that.
Doesn't it slow down as well?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it just becomes in slow motion, and you can see it.
I think it saved my life once. I was in an accident, and when I just saw it, and I just knew that, hey, there's a way out. And I slid sideways and gave it gas and got out of there, and it just, and that was a huge part of what football played in my life.
Interesting. Well, we're just about running out of time here. Just a couple more questions, and we'll wrap up. And I want to hear what you're doing. I know you're doing some great things with some kids nowadays as well. tell us, if you had the ability to go back and talk to the 13-year-old Steve, he was probably, like 6'3"?
Yeah.
What would you tell him?
Just the same thing with Albert Einstein. Is just there's no substitute for hard work. And some kids, like my son, I can't tell him anything. So it's funny.
I have one of those too.
Oh my God! And
tell you what, you coach my son, I'll coach your son. How's that? We'll just switch
all day long. And everybody else,
and I'm going to bring it too with them. So just tell him it's coming.
I'm telling you, everyone else he'll listen to.
Yeah,
and he just kind of like, Dad,
but weren't we the same way?
Right, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, it's like your parents, and then, heck, I'll have all kind of folks their kids are in. I coach them Little League. Their kids in college, like, will you please talk to him? He will not listen to me. And then they'll listen. They're like, Coach, I get it. And it's almost like I have a level of accountability that I've established with them and a level of expectation. Yeah. And it's all, certain substitute teachers you go overboard to be nice with, and others you like take it to the limit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And act bad. But at the same time, that's just it, is that just work your butt off. There's no substitute. If you work hard as you can, more than likely you're gonna have success. And that's the one thing. If work and if you fail, so what? At least you gave it your all.
Exactly. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough.
Absolutely.
It's funny. I was sitting here today and I was working out a little kind of a chart, and I'm really big on understanding human psychology and how people avoid pain at all cost. And we get into this comfort zone, and we kind of sometimes just kind of want to stay there. And what happens is if we slip back a little bit, we start heading back towards that pain or that fire, and we get away from it, and we slip back into this comfort zone. But what I realized is there's also another pain level above that, and it's called hard work.
Yep, absolutely.
And a lot of people play this ping pong between this pain of not doing stuff and stuff not going the right way, and then they get up to this hard work, and they're like, oh, that's tough, that's pain. Let me just slip back into this comfort zone. And really what we've got to get comfortable with is breaking through that next level. Muscles are not built by going to the gym and lifting 5 pounds.
And not overnight.
Exactly. Yeah. It's over and over again.
And like what you said is just kind of how my kids see, like we go to our other house, and then they see the work outside, and they don't want to do it. But like you said, if you do it, then things are going to be much easier, more enjoyable. And the same with working out hard. I mean, here I am, finally kind of getting after it in my little Orange Theory, class. And
he's looking great, by the way. What have you dropped now?
About 30-some pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
It shows.
And then the first day or two, it's like, God, I can't do this again. But when I came home, I was like, man, those sides felt a little better. Those little love handles were getting tighter.
And then the girls are going to go, hey, Steve.
You're getting sexy, big sexy. And so then the next time it gets easier and easier because it becomes more of a challenge and you want to do better.
Well, Steve, tell us a little bit about what you're doing with the kids. I know you're doing a lot of work with
yeah, I do a lot of camps, and then it's hard to turn down camps that you've done for 15, 20 years. It's almost like going to San Quentin prison, in which I used to go there and speak. Did you really? Yeah.
Wow.
And then I would hear guys like give every excuse in the world, like, my kids are sick. Like, dude, you've been in practice all day. Like, you weren't worried about them being sick while you're in practice, And it's like, what are you gonna do when you get home? What really are you gonna do? Your wife is there all day long, but your kids are sick, so you're not going once a year to San Quentin. But they're sick at the same time every single year. And so for me, I really wanted to use those excuses. But about the third time I went there, guys would like cheer, like, yay, Steve Wallace is coming again. I was like, darn, man, I feel like Joe Montana up in here. and then it became a habit, and then I enjoyed going because it was like, for most parts, a lot of them aren't going anywhere, right?
Yeah.
So you got 20, 30 years, you're just going to be there.
Well, and I think the most, for me at least, and I think for most people, is when you're giving of yourself to others, that's the most rewarding work you can ever do.
And then you said about with the kids, God, I tell you what is so awesome and incredible is that that's a group that you can have some type of influence on. It's hard when you got a staunch type attitude. You know, you try to change somebody, you know, like they say, you don't talk politics and religion, because especially not with somebody in their 50s. They're not hearing it. It's not going to happen. So you guys just listen to us. Okay. So with that, talking to kids 13, 14, 15, and even in college, I've been pulled over twice, and once it happened in Alabama, and then once it happened in Georgia, where I live. And in both cases, it's just ironic that, you know, policeman came up. I was maybe 8 miles per hour.
Over, just 8.
Yeah, and so maybe 8, you know, maybe 15.
Maybe 11.
So anyway, I knew I was speeding, you know. And then so in both cases, once it was in Alabama, a guy pulled up. He goes, Baron Wallace. And so he called me by my first name. I said, yes, sir. You know, you got to give him total authority. He's like, where did you go to Auburn? Yes, sir. And I'm starting to laugh. And
then he goes, I went to Alabama.
Right. Yeah, well, and then he said, you spoke to me at this high school, such and such and such and such.
Wow.
And I'm thinking, he was like, do you remember? I was like, yeah, I remember the high school. He was like, I was one of the guys you call up front that I was acting bad that day.
Wow.
Because, like, a lot of times, if a kid is acting bad or I can feel it, then I say, hey, you come up here, you're going to sit beside me. You're going to be my helper. And so I'll help him. I'll let him pass out autograph pictures. I'll let him do something. And it's just to let him feel good about, hey, I can do something positive. And then they really light up.
And who knows where he was headed at that point.
Absolutely.
I mean, his life could have taken a completely different path.
We knew he was headed to the principal office. Worst case scenario, at least.
You know, it could have been worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, literally, your talk could have been the shift in his life.
Absolutely. And then the second time it happened in Georgia, the guy pulled me over. He's like, Baron Wallace. I said, yes, sir. He was like, have you ever spoke at Troup County High School? I said, yes, sir, I did. He said, did you know anything about focus, Mr. Wallace? Focus, focus. I mean, it almost brought tears to my eye. I was like, I couldn't talk.
Yeah.
He was like, do you know? I just want to know, do you know anything about FOCUS? He was like, Mr. Wallace, what does that spell? I said, I know it's focus, because that was one of my things.
Yeah.
I would yell out at the kids, FOCUS. And then we yell, focus. And then kids love yelling in school.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, it lets them release.
Yeah.
You know, and then and one of my other words I would say was try. And everything you do, you got to do what? And then especially with fifth graders, try. Everything you got to do what? Try. And they get to yell
and they get to yell in school. It's
absolutely.
Like, this is,
they love it. And so when this gentleman that was about 25 came up and spoke to me, and said, what do you know about FOCUS? And it almost brought tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
He said, Mr. Wallace, I've always lived by that. As long as I have focus, then I can do all kind of things.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing what the small things that you do, the impact that you may have.
Right.
You know, it's like throwing a pebble into a pond, and there's a rippling effect, and you have no idea where that ripple's going to end up.
Absolutely.
I get emails all the time from people. Just recently I got one that said, you changed my life. And I said, well, thank you. I said, what did I do?
Right.
He goes, at 1 o'clock in the morning, you gave me a glass of water at an event. I was like, oh, you're welcome. I mean, what did water have to do with changing? You know, I didn't say this, but he went on to say that it was that sense of servitude,
right,
of doing whatever it took to take care of me that made a tremendous impact. So you never know. So that's great.
Yeah.
So if someone wants to get involved in what you're doing, support some of the activities that you're doing.
And I'd say just send me out an email or something like that through Steve Wallace Foundation or through you. You know what I mean?
And I'll make sure that they get to you. I mean, I know you bring kids to your lake house and take them skiing and I mean
all kind of stuff.
And you don't advertise this, and you keep this kind of. You're a very personal and private individual. So thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I can't afford it. You know, too many. You're right, though.
Well, thank you. The interview has been terrific. I know people are going to want to know more about what you're doing, and I appreciate it. I think we should make this a weekly event.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Wednesday Wine Wallace Day.
And then call in and have questions, whatever. We'll see how it goes.
Awesome. You rock, man.
Okay. Thank you, bro.
Thank you for listening. If you haven't already done so, please head over to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Also, please share this with family, friends, coworkers, or anyone that could benefit from this information. To make it very easy to share these episodes, simply go to my Facebook page, Thor Conklin, click on the episode that you want to share, and you can post it to your timeline. You just might be helping one of your friends on Facebook by sharing it on your page. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Thor Conklin. The website is thorconklin.com. The email is info@thorconklin. While at the website, please sign up for our weekly newsletter with additional tricks, tips, tools, and psychology on how to be a peak performer. Remember, these episodes are anywhere between 6 and 35 minutes and are meant to be consumed during dot time doing other things. Until tomorrow, have an absolutely amazing day.